Welcome to my YouTube channel and blog. I'm Jenny Hall. Thanks for joining me for another card making tutorial. Today I'm going to make a card with Everyday Hero stamp set, and I'll feature a piece of the Designer Series paper stack from the 2015 in colors. I'm modeling the design of this card after some of the anime manga type of images that I've seen before, and I don't want to overcomplicate it. So I'm just going to stick to one color that's an actual color, and the rest of it is like a monochromatic color theme. This is going to be the second video in my technical series on masking. So what I've done is first I have stamped on a piece of paper the mask that I'm going to be using, and I'm cutting that out with scissors. And then I also stamped with the same ink onto the card. The cardstock for this particular project is 3 1/4 wide by 5 1/2 tall. The piece of Designer Series paper behind it is 3 1/2 wide by 5 1/2 tall. I'm securing the mask to the actual card front with some washi tape. Washi tape is a low tack type of adhesive, and what that basically means is that you can put it on and you can pull it back off without tearing your paper. I'm using the stamp pad for Watermelon Wonder, and I grabbed a sponge that had been used on Watermelon Wonder before, and I'll be doing some ink blending to give this a gradated type of a background. The one thing to remember whenever you use a mask that is not adhesive backed, meaning if you use a mask that is just a piece of paper, then you need to try to keep the motions of your hand as if you're sweeping away from the paper, because otherwise when you pull it back, if you were to move in a circle, then when you move your hand back, it will bring the paper up and curl it and tear it. So this is a different way of masking versus the first video in my series that was it was a piece of actual masking paper. This was a piece of masking paper, but I stamped on the opposite side so that you guys can get an idea of exactly what it's like if you don't have masking paper, or you don't have a post-it note, or you just need to grab a regular piece of copy paper to do your masking. You can still accomplish this and you can have great results, but it takes a little bit of planning in order to get you where you want to be. So I did remove the mask and I didn't toss it away. I saved it because I knew I would not be finished with what I needed to use it for. I've put it right back into place, and you can see how I guess we're going to call these the rays, how the rays of this particular stamp are overlapping the town area, and that mask being back in place helped to protect that area. Basically, when you're masking something, you are just trying to cover it up so that you can do other things that look like they fade into the background. In this stamp set, there is a superhero female and a superhero male, as well as a lot of other images. And I'm using the superhero female to kind of be the focal point on the card. She's going to be raised up above the center of where all of those sun rays meet in the middle of the card. I stamped her onto a piece of Whisper White cardstock. There's 3 separate elements: her head, the body, and the cape. You could use the body on the male or the female, and it's kind of a androgynous, kind of a stylized look. So it's nice to be able to have a person standing or a person kind of in the middle of flying around, and you can just choose which head goes on in order to make it a male or a female superhero. I'm using a blender pen with a stamp pad in order to give some contours and color to the image. I don't want to bring too much color into this card because I do want Watermelon Wonder to be the color that is forefront. It's right there, and it's kind of like just a two-tone look. You've got the grayscale look in comparison to the Watermelon Wonder, which is a very vibrant color. I am choosing certain elements of where to place the Watermelon Wonder on the female character. I chose to put the Watermelon Wonder on her mask, and the way that I got the contoured shading look with the blender pen and the ink pen on the mask area was that I applied the color from the outside of the mask, which would be the part where it touches around the corner of her face, and brought the color in a sweeping motion in. And then I did the same thing to the bridge of the nose and made it go out to around the eye area as well. And so what that does is it shows the part that would hang away from her face the most, which is up above the cheekbones. That would actually be a lighter color, or where the white highlight space would need to be. So I added a little bit of color to her cheeks too, because I want to emphasize that this is a girl. And I gave a little bit of Watermelon Wonder to her belt buckle and her little pair of pants. And I used the smoky slate gray to color in her hair and just kind of give a little bit of contours onto the rest of the body image. The first piece that I'm putting down here is going to be the cape, because the cape is going to appear like it's kind of flying away from the body as far as strategically where the pieces are going to be placed. I want the cape to appear that it's much further behind. What the illusion on this card is we've got several different layers of depth without actually having several different layers of paper on the card. There is cardstock for the card base and a piece of designer series paper, but everything else on the front piece of the card is just one layer. But it doesn't really appear that way because the masking that was done in order to bring the town area up to the front and to the Watermelon Wonder helped to give the look of depth to a sky area. And then of course the superhero lady is kind of popped up too. Whenever I removed the mask, I could see that there was a white area that was like an overlap of where the mask and the sky and the town met. And that's perfectly fine. I usually add some kind of a shading when I'm dealing with something that I want to be three-dimensional. So I took the blender pen and the smoky slate ink and just went around those white areas and gave it a look of dimension and shading, as if this town actually, the sun were shining, what it would look like naturally. I'm going to add some sequins. There's some clear, sparkly sequins, and I'm going to use snail adhesive to adhere this designer paper. One hint that I can lend to you whenever you're trying to center the paper, and trust me, I have trouble with getting things on straight, and I am the most crooked stamper that you have ever known. So in order to help correct those things in my crafting, I use this grid paper. So you'll see that I'm lining up the card base with centered exactly where it would be on the paper. And that way it helps me to be able to visually place things right the first time. And believe me, I have had to restamp things all the time. So I try to prevent that if I possibly can. The sentiment that I just stamped and put on a little scrap of paper says, "You're incredible." And there's a lot of different sentiments with this stamp set. It's really cool, and it's something new that I like to see, to be able to work with from Stampin' Up. Here are those sequins, and I'm going to adhere them with liquid glue. Thank you guys for visiting me for another card making tutorial, and I invite you to go over to my blog at jennystampsup.com, and there you'll find daily card making inspiration. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching the video. See you next time.